All right, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us in our Abuja studio for the live coverage of the off-cycle election happening in Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa states, where we have our correspondents scattered across, bringing us up to speed with the developments out of there. We've been getting reports since morning when we opened the studio, and we have been seeing key contestants actually go cast their ballots. We have also seen a number of persons, electorates, go out to also cast their votes. INEC kept their promises to ensure that they were out in time for voters to be able to register and do the needful. And we have seen also the presence of security personnel ensuring to keep the peace across these states. Right now, we will be looking closer at the various states, talking about Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa, the numbers coming out of these states. And we will begin with the Bayelsa state, talking about the number of registered voters. Over 1,556,862 persons were said to have registered. Those are the records that INEC gave. And INEC also went ahead to say that about 1,017,613 persons collected their PVCs. Now, we have about 39,249 persons that didn't collect their PVCs. But let's take a closer look at how these numbers are recorded across the senatorial districts. Now, if you look at Ekeremo, for instance, well, let's first go to the political parties. We have about 16 political parties there and 16 governorship candidates, 14 male candidates and about 2 female candidates. And this has been a concern about the number of females that participated in this off-cycle election as against what we recorded in 2019, where we had, I think, about 10 females, in the election. But for persons with disabilities, no record of that number. And they have also been talking about inclusiveness in our electoral processes, and we hope to see that in the coming days. But earlier I was trying to take a closer look at the representation of these numbers across the various senatorial districts. And in Ekeremo, the records say we have about 258 polling units, and that's about 11.50% of polling units. Bayelsa East in total has about 701 polling units, representing 31.24% of the polling units there. And Bayelsa Central total for polling units, there is about 1,041 polling units, representing 46.39%. And for Bayelsa West total, we have about 502 polling units. For registered voters, we have about 276,057 persons, and PVCs collected from Bayelsa West total, we have about 263,550, making 25.9%. All right, let's quickly move to Imo State now. Now, for the registered voters, there is an increase in number as against what we recorded in Bayelsa State. Here we have 2,419,922 registered voters. And the number of collected PVCs, 2,419,922. For uncollected PVCs, 101,003. Those are the numbers of uncollected PVCs. And let's take a breakdown of the number of political parties: 17 political parties, 17 governorship candidates, 17 male candidates, 0 female candidates recorded in each state, and 1 person with disabilities made an attempt to perhaps gun for the governorship seat in that state. We move now to Kogi State. And for the registered voters, we have 1,932,654. And for collected PVCs, we have 1,833,000. parties. This is coming closely beside Imo State, 99,494. So let's take a breakdown of the number of political parties. There we have 18 political parties, 18 governorship candidates, 17 male candidates, 1 female candidate. For the other 2 states, talking about Imo and Bayelsa, we see that the incumbents are also contesting in this election. Kogi State is the only state where the incumbent is not part of the process. So we will be taking a closer look and perhaps getting information from our correspondents across the states with regards to how people are turning out. But then let's still take a closer look at Kogi State, the local government. We have Adavi, Ajokuta, Ankpa, Basa, Dekina, Ibaji, Ida, Igalamela Odolu, Ijumu, Kababunu, Kogi, Lokoja, the state capital, Mopamoro, Ofu, Ogorimagongo, Okehi, Okene, Olamaboro, Omala, Yagba West, Yagba East. These are the local governments in the Kogi State. And earlier on, there was reports about some results being missing, and INEC has also responded to that in Okene, Davi local government, and one other Okehi local government earlier on. I will be following developments with regards to that. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll be speaking with our guest in the studio. Stay with us.
Let me congratulate the 3 states that have elections today: Bayelsa State, Imo State, and Kogi State, and which all these states successful election, peaceful conduct of elections. But basically, because this is an off-season election, and I get worried about the issue of off-season elections, and I will use this unique opportunity to plead with the National Assembly that we need to block this off-season election. It's very odd. It's not a global best practice. A country can elect their people at different times, like America and some countries. They will not elect everybody at the same time. But any time they go on to conduct the election, they elect everybody that's supposed to be elected. If we continue with this trend of off-season elections, based on the interpretation of our laws by the judicial officer, it will come to a time that the presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season. Probably that's the time that all of you media people and others should be worried. Look at the American system. Everybody knows when the American elections will be conducted. That's standard practice in other countries. And when I say presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season one day, some people may say, why, how? It almost happened in 2007. I contested as a running mate to late President Yaradua. You know that election, the 7 justices that presided over the case, 3 of them, in their own judgment that the election be annulled, 4 of them sustained the election. And that is why we stayed. If one has crossed over, by now the presidential election in Nigeria will have been off-season election. And it is not the best for a country. And there's easy things to do to make sure that other states, now we have 7 states that are off-season. We need to stop there. And where possible, these 7 states too can be migrated back to fall in line with the other states, and the National Assembly can do that. That is my message for the National Assembly, my message for Nigerians today. On the other hand, I wish the election successful. I've been monitoring what is happening in Bayelsa State. I almost ask people across the local governments, and for now, no major things that will get worried, apart from the part of Nembe local government, the Basambri part of Nembe local government that have been in conflict for quite some time before the election. Apart from that, I think the elections are going on well, but we cannot conclude until the end of the voting period. So once again, I thank you, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The mic.
Well, All right, former President Goodluck Jonathan there speaking about the election. He commended INEC and then also talked about the off-cycle election, hoping that in the nearest future, these states will be returned to join the normal cycle of elections that we witness in the country. We have our correspondent, Sarah Ayeku, standing by now to bring us up to speed with developments from Bayelsa. Sarah, what's happening at this point?
So it's been a very busy day with a flurry of activities happening across the 8 local government areas of the state. And so what we see right now is that voting is still ongoing. It's pretty sunny as against what we saw this morning. It was chilly this morning. It was hazy. There was just a fog around the town this morning. But this is Yenagoa, the state capital, and I'm one of the wards, and it's very sunny and hot. But we still see that a lot of voters are still at the various polling units around this area. This is the heart of Yenagoa, and from what you see the voters, some of them are voted, but they are still standing to ensure that their votes are counted. That's at 2:30 p.m. when voting will stop. And so from what we've heard so far from some of the voters, they have commended INEC for the process, having the fact that they can do accreditation and also vote at the same time. Although at some polling units across the city center, voting started at about 9 a.m. As against the 8:30 a.m. mark given by INEC officials during the briefing pre-election day. And so what we see now is that election is still ongoing at most of the polling units. We're waiting for 2:30 to end this process. But I have with me Mr. Sylvester Okodua. He's an election observer from Transition Monitoring Group. He's going to give us his own assessment of the election, considering he has heard reports from 8 local governments apart from Yenagoa. That's 7 other local governments apart from Yenagoa local government. It's good to have you join us of cycle election. What's your assessment of the process so far?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Ambassador Sylvester Okodua, South Zonal Coordinator, Transition Monitoring Group. I'm here in Yenagoa to monitor this election, and also we deploy 16 local government coordinators in the 8 local government area of the state. I want to commend INEC. There is improvement, especially in the area of deployment of ad hoc staff, and also some of the polling units, voting material arrive early enough, and some arrive a little bit late. And from where I am, also the report from where our observers are deployed, the process is calm and quiet. We have not reported any loss of life or any ballot snatching, but there are some cases where some of the voters, the beavers cannot actually capture their fingerprints. So some of those people were not allowed, and they automatically they are not eligible to vote. But what is glaring, I want INEC and security agents to tackle, is the level of vote buying. There is a well-coordinated vote buying cutting across all the political parties, and this is not done in the secret. And there is a specific amount which people are voting for the higher bidder, and this is against the electoral process. It's against free, fair, and a credible election, and it's against somebody selling his or her conscience, which lead to compromising the process.
So what's your assessment of security so far around the 8 local government areas, knowing that
and the standard operational procedure of the police, of the security forces in this election is okay? You can go to every polling unit. There are present of different security agencies stationed, ready for any eventuality. But meanwhile, there is high level of peace, quietness, and voters are still voting their candidates of their choice.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for waiting, and we thank you. We appreciate your patience for waiting through this process. As to what we've seen in the course of this election, before today, there's a particular story which involves the abduction of an INEC official, that's a supervisory presiding officer in Sagbama local government area of the state. And what we understand now is that the officials here, particularly I spoke with the National Commissioner, she said that 45 minutes before the woman now, that's the supervisory presiding officer, she has been identified as a woman. 45 minutes before she was abducted, she was still doing a duty here in the state capital before she was abducted at Masoma Jetty. Although the police has said that they have been able to ascertain that one person was involved in the abduction, they're on the trail of that person. They are hoping that they get the person, and then
all right,
we're able.
Sarah, if you could just quickly hold the thought. We have Diaji Frank Mba standing by he's giving a briefing to reporters. We need to quickly hear that.
And the reports, even from the suburbs, all show that the election has been largely peaceful. We're still monitoring situation, and we're still embarking on more patrols. If I leave here, I'm not returning to the office. We still engage in other patrols. I intend also to engage to conduct an area patrol with the police choppers so that I can have a better view of situation across the entire state. We are cautiously optimistic that with the kind of intelligence-driven deployments we've done, we will not have major issues. But even in spite of the largely peaceful conduct so far, we are not letting down our guards. We expect the best, but we have trained, planned, and prepared for the worst. But so far, we just want to encourage Imolites to continue to support this civic process, continue to conduct themselves in very civil, orderly, and law-abiding manners. For the politicians, that's where we get the bulk of the pressures and the bulk of the problems. We still want to appeal to them that power should be for the service of the people. And if it's truly for the service of the people, they should also consider the interests of the state, the interests of the citizens, and the interests of all of us while making their statements and while conducting themselves in and around the polls today.
Okay, so last one from me. Again, we can look at this from phases. This is the first phase, the voting process underway. By the time we're done with the voting, we would expect that materials or the collation will be done and moved to local government for the collation. So what is the plan to ensure that INEC officials and every other person in this election are secure?
Well, we've done a dry run of the entire process. That's the actual truth. And we have strategies both at the upper and lower levels clearly mapped out. We believe that the same manners we were able to provide adequate and sufficient security for election materials from the time they arrive at the airport to the time we move them to Central Bank office, to the time we move them to INEC headquarters, and then the downward distribution to the local government areas and to the wards. We'll still go through that same processes while returning those materials back to the collation centers. We have adequate numbers and adequate gadgets from the explosive ordnance department, our bomb disposal squads have also been properly trained and adequately deployed. And so we will also be deploying the EOD's experts to all those collation centers and making sure that even before the materials begin to arrive, before the INEC officials begin to arrive, before the party agents begin to arrive, we must have done a thorough sweeping of those areas. We are generally positive about the outcome of these elections. We are committed to protecting the democratic space. We are committed to providing a level playing field. We are doing our best. We have challenges on ground, but these are not challenges that are insurmountable.
Earlier, if you could see that some polling units that we had visited this morning, we could see that there's huge low turnout of voters. And the information we had this morning is that some youths had gone around early this morning canvassing the vote, asking people to vote for candidates of a particular party. And of course, we were told that that's probably the reason people are scared to come to the polling unit. What would you like to say?
Elections in our climb are usually characterized by all kinds of fake news, deliberate misinformation, deliberate disinformation. So whenever you pick up information or pieces of information around this time, you need to fact check them thoroughly. You need to be sure that what you're saying is correct. So for me, we will investigate those aspects, these claims. But for voters' apathy, if I may use that word, and I'm using it advisedly, there is the best we can do is what we are doing and what we've done, providing sufficient security to guarantee the safety of Imolites as they come out to exercise their franchise. And so one of the major reasons of providing a superb security arrangement for an election for elections in Nigeria is to actually guarantee the electors, the politicians, the observers, INEC officials, journalists like you, and the rest of us that their safety, their lives will be protected as they come out to vote. So we've done our part. We've provided sufficient security. We've provided a level playing field. We have policemen in all the polling units. We have striking forces on patrol. We have quick response units roving around the town and the hinterlands. So we have done what we should do. Probably moving forward, Nigerians will just continue to strengthen our voters' enlightenment and education processes, deepen them, and deal with such issues. But again, looking at the time, you might still not say it is over until it is over. Some voters might be early risers, some might be mid-day risers, while others might be late-day risers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My hand was...
DIG Frank Mba there speaking about he and his men who have been moving about the state to monitor the security situation so he can have a bird's eye view of the situation there and also to ensure that the support the democratic process, according to him, and that people, the electorates, are safe as they go out to vote. We'll move over now to Kogi State, where we have Ademola Lawrence standing by to bring us up to speed. Ademola, there are reports that of vote buying and some other issues. Talk to us. What do you know about this matter?
Okay, so there have been some sort of vote buying in some polling units. Before I got there, of course, the security agencies were able to disperse some of these people who came along. One of them is up at Iga. polling unit 02, where some hoodlums were actually came to the polling unit, and the police were able to disperse them. As a matter of fact, the people rally round with the security agencies to make sure that those people are actually being whisked away at that particular polling unit. Then the second one,
Ademola,
actually
could
also
you just
happened,
hold the thoughts? We need to quickly move over to Bayelsa, where one of the candidates, governorship candidates, is speaking with the press.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is, of course, this is my ward. So you expect that everybody is supporting me, and that's why that units in my ward will be targeted and not uploaded, because I'm sure that they believe that if that happened and they disenfranchised in my ward, that it will be good for them. But we've been able to escalate it to INEC, and the problem is being rectified.
Okay, amid all the security reports that you earlier mentioned, what is your call to party members?
No, of course, I have always called on my party members to be peaceful, and they've really conducted themselves very well, and I'm proud of them. So far, so good. Just that the security elements in Yenagoa especially, because we keep getting all the stories from Yenagoa local government. And everything that has been escalated from Yenagoa to the situation room is about security people taking sides with the people. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So, do you still have confidence with all these allegations of flaws?
Of course, I am confident. We are containing the issues. I mean, I'm just bringing this to your attention. It's not as if we have lost hope in the system at all. I mean, definitely, that's far from it. We believe that in the end, we will still carry the day. I mean, these are all panic measures taken by a failing party. I mean, if they were not failing, they would not be enlisting the support of security to snatch ballot boxes. It is because they are failing. And we believe that in the end, they can't do this everywhere. They are not doing it everywhere. For example, in my ward, they are not able to do that. And of course, you can see everything is peaceful here. And in most other areas, they cannot do that. But in Yenagoa local government, we get all these reports that security people are getting compromised and are really on the side of the PDP.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Timothy Silva, one of the governorship candidates in Bayelsa, they're speaking about the peaceful conduct of the election. Let's get back to Ademola Lawrence in Kogi State. Ademola, you were bringing us up to speed about how the security was able to disperse hoodlums who were, engaged in vote buying.
Yeah, so that was in Igalogba polling unit 002, and at another polling unit where I actually just came before I came on the camera. Another vote buying actually happened, but I want the local observer who was actually here to speak to that effect. First, tell me your name, sir.
My name is Tahir Abubakar.
Okay, so tell us what you witnessed here at this polling unit.
I came in here and it was a very rowdy situation, and I tried to see what was happening. A former House of Reps member was trying to buy votes, and the people were protesting against that. But the security agents happened to intervene on time, so it has been brought under control.
So aside from that, before then, was there any issue at all at this particular polling unit, or from what you have observed so far at the different polling units that you went to?
No, there's no issue. The election is peaceful. There's enough security available on ground, so no issue of violence, apart from some issue of vote buying and the people who protest against it. The people are seriously against vote buying. I think that's where the major problem is. So anywhere they notice any personality trying to buy vote, they try to go against the person.
All right, thank you very much. Veronica, I also need to let you understand that at this particular election, one of the things that I've also noticed is that we don't have enough observers, both local, national. As a matter of fact, I've not seen any international observers at this particular election.
All right, Ademola, we'll need to put you on hold. We'll cross over quickly to Sarah Ayeku, who is in Bayelsa, to tell us Sarah, INEC said that they were going to ensure an inclusive process, especially for persons with disabilities. What did you observe with regards to that?
So what we've seen so far is that INEC has said that we would not be seeing aid equipment for persons with disability in all of the polling units. So what we're going to see is that in designated polling units, we're going to see aid equipment for persons with disability. And so this is what we're seeing right now. So in this particular polling unit, we've not seen anyone with a disability at this polling unit. So what we just see now is that voting has almost ended at this particular polling unit. Just a few persons are still on the queue. The others that you
All right, let's quickly cross over to Ademola Lawrence. Let me ask you the same question about INEC promising to ensure an all-inclusive process. What did you observe at the polling unit you are?
Part of the story, because when I came to the different polling units that I visited, the people that were given priorities, of course, are people with disabilities and, of course, the elderly ones. And they've been able to do that to that extent because when people queue up, you see them, they put them in batches. The elderly ones, then the people with a disability. So they've been able to keep to that part of the story for them, I mean, the electoral body.
Right. How about when you're talking about gender analysis of those who turned out to vote, what also did you observe?
I must tell you, I think the women have been the one that I've noticed that have come out so much in this election. And also, to also tell you that the elderly ones also...
Interesting, because these are some of the issues that INEC has agreed to address with regards to ensuring that there is an all-inclusive process. And when they did a breakdown of a gender analysis of voters as well as candidates. But then we'll have to move over quickly now to our guest in the studio, who is a political economist, talking about Dr. Aliu Ilias. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, the governorship candidates across the board, the major contenders in these three states, have been unanimous with regards to their view of the performance of INEC. But from what you have observed, did INEC live up to its bidding of ensuring that there is a seamless process and also to ensure that it restores confidence in the commission?
Right. If you watch, if you see, most of the candidates are actually coming out and say they commend INEC for their good work. But I think for me also, I like to commend INEC as well, because if you look at the general election, what actually came after the election, perhaps this is an off-cycle election, so it's not a general election. So we expect them to put in all their effort to make sure that we have a good outcome. Perhaps you are also saying that they have pushed some rec into some constituency that we even have three, and you usually have one for a state. But at this point in time, we have three, about nine for a state, and that is three for our constituency. So looking at that, we expect them to come out to perform very well. And we must also go beyond even INEC. I think we should commend all the stakeholders as well, because we have seen the Nigerian police, we have seen what they have tried to, not only Nigerian police, the security apparatus, they have also came out en masse to make sure that we have a free, fair, and credible election. But to be credible, maybe after the election, that's when we'll have that summation. But for now, we are having free, fair election as it is going. We have not seen a major issue, except we have seen Timothy Silva, who has just came out and said maybe particular local government, he noticed something. But, you know, cumulatively, we have to wait, and that's when we can have that total judgment about that. But for me, I think I like to commend INEC because they put all what they need to put in to make sure that we are having good election. And also, perhaps it's like they want to redeem what Nigeria has been.
Their image.
Their image, because most Nigerians are thinking after the last general election, perhaps it could be overwhelming. This is off-cycle election. We expect them to do better as expected.
Interesting. It seems we have Ademola on the line now for him to finish up what he was talking about, because we saw a video coming out of Kogi State where we saw a number of women dancing just now. Right. And he mentioned that a major chunk of the electorates that came out to vote where he monitored were women.
But it is expected. If you look at it generally, women comes out for Ilia, and it's only painful that if you look at the statistics, most of them are not coming out for elective position, because you see that maybe one in Kogi, one in Imo, and all those. So we need more push, perhaps, with what the government is trying to do, bringing women up. We want our mothers to also participate in the not only voting, but also be voted for.
Absolutely. Ademola, let me come back to you now quickly. We just saw a video where you are, where women were dancing. What's the story?
Okay, so I think that some of them have been able to finish casting their votes, so they are probably just happy about that. And they are very, very happy about the fact that they can cast their votes. You know, as I told you earlier, women, from what I've noticed about this election, in terms of gender
spread,
who have been gender sensibility, I think the women have been the ones who have been on the forefront. The women, then followed by the elderly ones, then followed by the youth. I've not seen more of the middle-aged men in terms of talking about maybe from like 50 upwards, you know. But I must tell you that women have been the one that I've noticed going to the different polling units that I've been to.
All right. Ademola, we'll definitely come back to you to get more updates as you move around the state to bring us up to speed with developments with regards to this off-cycle election. Let's now get to the details of coming out of from some of this, the states that we have been monitoring. One thing that INEC talked about was that it will ensure that this process is hitch-free. And so even when it comes to the use of BVAS, IREV, which was one of the major controversy, they have ensured that every hitch that was said to have been the issue at the general election was addressed. But we still saw a few hitch here and there where some persons were reported to have said that the BVAS could not identify their fingerprints and perhaps capture them, so to speak. This matter of the use of technology, are we really getting to adjust to this process, or we are still trying to get a hang of it all?
I think we just have to continue using technology because it has actually come, and that's why we are scoring even INEC, because over time they have come up with different technology that is helping. But for BVAS, we have monitored many elections, and during that election, you see that 1-2 persons may find it difficult to actually, in fact, they have to be cleaning their thumb exactly and doing those things. But you cannot take that away because depends on the capturing itself. Perhaps it could also, we must also see it from the other side. It could be the person itself, because anything can happen. So if technology now proves you that you are not, because they will not only stop, because I recall whenever we monitor elections, you see that they say stay one side, after some time come and try again. Yeah. So by the time they try about 3 times and it does not capture you, I think if we have 1,000 people in a polling unit and it's like 1 or 2, I think that's just acceptable to an extent. We won't say we should deny anybody voting, but this is technology. Sometimes it's recognize what actually it's inputted. So sometimes we have to also give that a chance. But over time also, we expect them to do more. But I think we just have to score that about over 90%, because we look at the numbers of people that are voting and look at number of people that could not get accredited. You see that it largely has actually done the expected job that it's supposed to do. That's for BVAS.
Right. Now, we've seen reports, for instance, in Kogi State, Okehi, Okene, and Adabi local government, where one of the governorship candidates had alleged that there were missing result sheets. And then INEC came out to say that those sheets were seen to have been filled. And you know how it is with regards to election, it has to be lifted and shown that there is nothing on the sheet before they begin to impute the numbers. But then we have recorded an incident already now. I am wondering what you make of this development, seeing that these are critical issues that matter in a democratic process like this.
It's quite critical. However, it's gladdening that we see INEC came out to really make some notes about it. But you know, if you look at how it is being organized at every polling unit, every political party have their representation. And when we talk about representation, it's not one person, it's not two person. More so, we always have about 17 political parties. So if they actually monitor as expected, I think that will be pretty difficult. However, I think it's an ongoing concern. So I expect INEC to come out to really say something about it beyond what they have just said. And those who also allege should come prove beyond the reasonable doubt. So we have to balance the two now, because this person that alleging, if you notice, it may not have strength in Kogi Central. Perhaps it's from another. That's another thing. So it is for politicians. Everyone will have to look at the other side and try to see how they can really get information to really discredit the other side. And that's why we have an umpire. That umpire should come on board and say, no, this is the true fact of it. And if you look at how it is being organized, it's not only one person, two person in a ward or in a polling unit. It's pretty difficult sometimes to carry out such a thing.
Well, INEC has said that they will investigate the matter, and so we'll be looking forward to hearing from them. Right now, we need to quickly cross over to our correspondent in Bayelsa State, talking about Uche Okoro, who will be bringing us up to speed with developments from where he is. Uche, what is going on where you are right now?
Right now, I am in OD community, also in Kolokoma, Opokoma local government area of the state. I can tell you that right here in OD community, voting and accreditation and voting started early from the reports I got from voters on the ground, from persons who I met on the queue and persons who have cast their vote. The personnel also got here very early. So far, the process has reached an advanced stage in many parts of OD community here. It's a very peaceful exercise here in OD community. We haven't gotten any reports of attacks or violence here in this location. Behind me, along this very long stretch of road behind me, one of the major roads here in OD community, there are more than 10 polling units behind me. On my left and my right, there are more than 10 polling units behind me. As well, also, if you also check, look ahead of me, what I can see in front of me, you would also see that there are quite a number of polling units here as well. You look ahead of me, you see a number of polling units. More than 6 polling units are also ahead of me, as well as about more than 10 polling units behind me. So that's the situation in OD community here. So far, so good. Materials arrived early, and voting, simultaneous accreditation and voting has reached an advanced stage here.
Talk to us about the turnout of voters for this exercise. I can see a number of persons just going about their businesses right behind you there. What's the level of turnout of voters?
I mentioned earlier that Kolokoma Opokoma has the least amount of registered voters in Bayelsa State, about just a little over 65,000 registered voters in the entire local government. So far, there hasn't been any apathy. From at least I can speak authoritatively for the polling units that I have visited and the communities that I have visited and communities I have driven through from the governor's community down to this particular community. I can't say that there has been apathy. I would say that there's been reasonable turnout of voters here in Kolokoma Opokoma. Maybe because one of the major candidates in this election hails from this local government. Maybe that has played some role in the enthusiasm that the people have shown to come out to cast their votes today. So far, so good. Everywhere is peaceful. The sun has been really intense, but people seem not to be bothered. They are here on the queue, getting themselves accredited and casting their ballots.
Indeed, elections are local, and so, as it is often said, so one would expect that perhaps because one of the major contenders is from that region, they would want to show their support. But perhaps let's also look at the matter of vote buying. We saw in Kogi State where we are getting reports that there was some level of vote buying. I wonder if you witnessed or heard anything like that.
In OD community, well, these things happen. You hear a lot of these things. I've gotten those reports, but confirmation is one thing. Most times it's near important. If you're not being paid for a vote, most times it may be difficult to confirm. But I've heard persons who have said yes. I've heard figures flying around, a certain number of thousands per vote. I've heard those complaints. But as I speak to you, those are just complaints. But we also have personnel of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission who are on ground here in OD. I met officials of the EFCC, or rather, they met me here. They met me at the polling unit where I was monitoring in OD here. About 4 personnel of the EFCC adorning the popular red and white jackets, and about 4 police officers attached to them. They arrived the polling unit where I was monitoring to check for what you have just pointed out, vote buying. While we had one of the officials right in the polling unit where voting was taking place, the other 2 or 3 officials were in the background. They were moving around, going into the streets, going to the back of buildings, going under trees, and into town halls to try and see for themselves if indeed vote buying was ongoing. But I think they did not see any such activity in the area where the polling unit where they met me, so they moved along. So the issue of vote buying is a very serious one, and the EFCC appears not to be taking any chances, or they seem to be alert about those activities, and they are on ground monitoring the situation in the state, from what I've seen.
Now, speaking about security, what was the level of engagement of the police with the electorate? What did you see with regards to how they were monitoring the exercise?
So far, there seems to be some level of cooperation or synergy between the people and the security agencies. There's been no incident. There's been no incident, truly. If you take a look, you can just see that police van. I just step away from the camera. You can see that police van going there. You can see it's just moving freely. So yeah, we can say that the police have been able to get the cooperation. The security agencies have been able to get the cooperation of the people so far. The military personnel have been coming and going in and out of this road. I've been seeing them moving freely. You can also see some policemen as well providing security for that polling unit just by my far right. So security personnel, I think, so far they've been able to get the people on their side, and to be able to work with them. Many of the disturbances that have happened at the polling units that I've visited have merely been about whose turn is it, right? We've not had any incident so far that I can report. I've not seen to report any incidents of ballot snatching or any of that. The only disturbances that I have experienced or witnessed at the polling units, simply it's about whose turn is it. I arrived at the polling unit first. I've been on the queue first. This person just arrived, and so on and so forth. And those the party agents and the presiding and assistant presiding officers have been able to bring all of those under control.
Now, when we spoke to Sarah earlier, she told us about some persons who had voted but were waiting for the end of the exercise. They wanted to see and ensure that their votes count. Is that the same thing where you are?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I just had to draw the attention of my camera person to, and I pointed out to him that check out those very elderly women, really elderly women. I think the youngest, rather, let me use that word. The youngest any of those old women would be by my calculation. Shouldn't be anything less than 70 upwards. And many of them are still there, waiting to cast their votes. In the governor's community, Bomo community, we had a number of elderly persons who tried to get accredited. So they tried to get accredited. There were some delays. They eventually did. They cast their votes, and they didn't leave immediately. So I answered your question from that perspective to point to you a picture that people are really eager to see the outcome. So yes, persons are waiting to see results, votes sorted, counted, and uploaded to IRF. Persons are here. They are waiting. Voting is still ongoing. Some have voted, some have left, but we still have a wide range of age difference in the demographic of voters still waiting to see this process until the results are uploaded to IRF here in OD community Kolokoma, Opokoma, Bayelsa State.
And now, still talking about demography, you talked about the elderly who are there. How about the young, between the ages of 18, which is the constitutional age, to about perhaps 30, 40? Can you tell us perhaps if they made a showing where you are?
Yeah, they did. The number of young, it's been, back in the days when we cover election, it is more common to find more of men or more of women or more of the young or more of the middle age, right? But in this case, it's been pretty balanced. There's been really young persons that I have to really look at their faces very well to be sure. And I ask myself, are you sure these ones are up to 18? But of course, they should be up to 18, right? Because nobody else is protesting. Nobody else is raising alarm. So, yeah, so I'm sure they are up to 18. So if we have people as young as that, and people as old as 70 upwards, who their children or other relatives are assisting into the polling units to cast their votes, it paints to you a very balanced picture. So this time around, I can say that it's not been one-sided. The turnout in terms of gender distribution hasn't been lopsided. It's been pretty balanced. We've had the young, we've had the middle-aged, we've had the elderly, we've had the women, we've had the men. Everybody is out to cast their votes in Yenegua. But of course, I don't know if this, like I said, I don't know if this turnout is simply because the governor is from Kolokoma, really tongue-twisting local government. Yeah.
Indeed, tongue-twisting. Now, quickly, INEC promised to ensure that it had an all-inclusive process, especially for persons with disabilities. What did you observe at OD, the polling unit where you are?
I haven't seen any person with disability. I haven't seen any blind person. I haven't seen any anybody who is visually impaired or anybody who I haven't seen them yet. Maybe enough sensitization was not made on this because the commission was saying specifically that they want to get these persons on board. They want to encourage participation of this minority group of voters. But I don't see that. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen persons with disabilities and coming out to cast their votes. Perhaps they thought it was going to be business as usual. They would come and there's really no special arrangement for them. There's no plan for them. So maybe that's why they are not coming out. Maybe the commission did not do enough to inform them of its plan for them and reassure them that those plans will see the light of day. So I can't say that participation of that community has been encouraged. But you know that according to the commission, 880 persons with disabilities are registered to vote in Bayelsa State. Of that number, majority of the disability variation, 30 of them are visually impaired. But I haven't seen them here casting their votes in Bayelsa so far.
All right, Uche, we'll definitely get back to you for developments out of OD, and then we'll know what is coming out of there, perhaps as we get along. But let's get back to the studio now to speak with our guest, Dr. Ilias, who is still here. You had our correspondent talking about the level of participation, gender distribution, as well as age distribution, the involvement of persons and the eagerness to ensure that they see the process to the end. They want to see their votes count. What do you interpret out of all he has said, especially the elderly whom he said are waiting after casting their ballot?
Right. Now, it's a good one that at this point in time, we have enough political education where everyone wants to be part of the process. As you know, politics as it is, or democracy as it is, our all life depends on this, because this is people that are going to determine what happens to our system. So I think it's a good one if we are all eager to actually see things through and how things actually occur. And for the elderly person, it's a good one that will see them coming out to actually cast their vote. But the people with disability, I think our correspondent should just do more. Perhaps maybe INEC has actually identified units where all these people should go, because they may not be able to provide these facilities for across all the polling units. So possibly there's a particular polling unit. Exactly. So these are what we want them to do, so that we can really fact check and also hold this INEC accountable for this. Then moving forward on issue of vote buying, because some of them made mention of incidents of vote buying. Now it's going scientific, so it's quite appalling and funny that we see, especially EFCC going adorning their dress, saying they want to catch people with votes buying. It has gone beyond that level. People who have possibly buy the vote before or should be more. So I think they much more investigate. They should carry out some investigation. Perhaps people are collecting this thing. So people that are collecting could be a bait to actually catch who is actually offering it. So for you to put on your dress, because I remember the last time I also monitor election, I saw them coming, and once you see them on their uniform, what does it signify? They are coming here. Yes. So people have to like find solution and pass whatever we want to pass. So I think we should just go through the process if at all we want to really catch people that are embarking on vote, because they are actually scientific, and we are in the same world here, we are in the same terrain, we are in the same Nigeria. So they actually know that it's a negative, bad thing, it's an offense to actually buy a vote. So they find a means of doing it through different processes that I don't need to be mentioned. So I think our security agency, EFCC, should go beyond adorning their uniform to where things are happening. They should find other means to really check that. Very, very important.
But you also know that on the flip side of that, if they are not in their uniform and they want to perhaps get persons who are engaged in these things, it might be a challenge for them.
Their uniform can work if that person has been identified and they want to arrest the person. But for their uniform to avoid the process to take place, I think that's not, that will not work.
But it could serve as a deterrent.
Well, it could serve as a deterrent. Perhaps if you now want it to serve as a deterrent, there should possibly be a jingle, something that will also come maybe a day before the election. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not that on that day of our election. Perhaps it will also bring panic as well. Perhaps if you want to arrest somebody during the election that has committed a vote buying, it's look at that, it's a kind of optics that could signal a tension within that environment. So I think they should do more.
Could this be the reason why the police who are positioned or stationed at the polling units do not bear arms? Because we've had this conversation back and forth, and the matter of perhaps those who come to snatch ballots, those who perpetrate violence, these persons are not bearing arms. How do they foist these activities when you are not bearing arms? Is it because of this same reason you are given
it's actually,
the tension,
yes, the tension
and the impression
itself.
it gives?
Naturally, when we go to election place and we saw people bearing arms, trust and Nigerians who scared. Perhaps there could be stray bullets, there could be somebody who caused violence, and that person suffer for it. So what I think is, and I think that's why they are doing it. There could police around may not bear arms, but there will be a particular point where they will be. So if there's any issue, they will escalate, and those people will come around to actually rescue the situation. I think that's
but
the best
the time
practice.
between waiting to escalate might just be that room where these persons can take advantage to perpetrate whatever they want to do.
Perhaps you should know that even most of our security agents, they have what is called simulation. They would have carried out different simulation at different times to really tame this kind of issue. More so, it will not be only police that will be at the particular police. We will have civil defense, all other security apparatus will also be there. So I think we should also look for a way not to create tension at every polling unit.
Okay, the visual on your screen is the live monitoring of the police, aerial view of the police monitoring Imo State. They're monitoring the situation with regards to security in Imo State. And we just saw DIG Frank Mba, who spoke earlier, telling us that they intend to have a bird's eye view of the security situation in Imo State, and that is them in the helicopter monitoring the situation. Our correspondent Abimbola will be with them. Obviously, this gives them a better insight into the security situation with regards to this election. But then there are also concerns with the level of deployments made with regards to the security during the elections. Some have said that it's more like a war zone or a situation of war, but it's just an election.
I think especially state like Imo actually called for such extra attention, because if you look at building up to the election, there's a lot of attention in that state. So I think it should be secure. However, we want to discourage over security of our electoral process, because it actually discourages the whole of. Perhaps if people see that routine of police and securities, sometimes it makes you to want to think twice before you go out for election. So we must also discourage over policing of our election process. But this actually called for it, because if you look at the tension around the states, perhaps, if you look at the build-up to this election in states like Imo and Kogi, I think Bayelsa is more fair. You discover that, yes, there is need for all the security to be there. Perhaps this bed view also help them. Beyond the bed view, like I mentioned earlier, if there's any issue they escalate, they can easily, actually do something with this helicopter.
Of course, communication gadgets to actually know where incidents are, they can easily, just intervene,
right.
so to speak there. We'll definitely get more details with regards to that. But when we're talking about, policing our elections, there's a question as to if we are actually dealing with the root cause, or we are just treating symptoms when we're talking about security issues. Over the years, we have seen matters of electoral violence and insecurity evolve, but yet we still see this perhaps militarization of the electoral process. Is that the solution to all of the issues we face when we have elections?
No, the fact just remains that Nigeria, as a country, sometimes we get to see the situation and we keep managing the situation. So we must get to a place whereby we stop all those things. And how do we stop it? Now, we want to see people that are committing vote buying, people that are committing electoral violence. We want to see them being punished for what they do. By that, it will serve as a deterrent to discourage people that are coming to do in future. Perhaps, and then our electoral system has to also evolve over time. Perhaps there should be pre-election for maybe people that are journalists and what have they would have cast their vote. So if they have also solved some problem even before that would have reduced the tension itself. Then, like I said, our electoral law needs to be hard. We have a good electoral law that is evolving. There are a lot of things to change, because after this election, we also see a lacuna that we still need to build up upon. However, if these people that have committed electoral offense are properly tried and maybe convicted, it will show and people will be discouraged to do. So we may not need to actually come policing every now and now. And like I also said, beyond the day of election, there's a process to that election. For instance, our state security, our police, they can be around to, monitor without even putting on a uniform, to monitor a lot of things and bring things to normalcy even before the election itself.
Right. But then again, you would recall that commitment from, the political elite is also critical.
Very key.
And crucial with regards to electoral processes. I recall that the peace bond was signed leading up to the election. And there's so many criticism with regards to what that peace bond does for our election. But then if we are to look at the commitment of the political elite, despite signing this peace bond, and we still see we see what is going on. Now, let's just quickly go back to what is on our screen, talking about the aerial surveillance by the Nigeria Police Force in Imo State, led by DIG Frank Mba, and our correspondent Abimbola Agbebi is there. This is taking a bird's eye view of the security situation in Imo State to ensure that Imo State is secured for the off-cycle election. He earlier had spoken to the press where they went patrolling around the city to ensure that there are no issues before they engage this this aerial surveillance. And there are no critical reports with regards to the matter of security challenges or electoral violence in the state. Because the police ensured that they deployed quite a number of security personnel aside the police force for this election, and that is DIG Frankenbad there, obviously communicating with his men on the ground to understand the situation and perhaps go to any area where there might be issues so they can render as much assistance as they can. Security is one of the concerns that a majority of persons in the state have had leading up to the election, because we had seen some issues in Imo State, even leading up to the general election that we had earlier this year, where INEC facilities were attacked. Some persons, INEC officials, were also attacked in the process. Even security formations were attacked. And then we see the situation that happened in 2019, so to speak. And this has also been the issue. We also had the matter of the unknown gunmen who have also had said at some point that there wouldn't be election in the state. And these are concerns that had made the police ensure that they deploy every arsenal within their purview to ensure that the electorate in the state are safe and secure as they perform their franchise. So far, like we mentioned earlier, there has not been any major issue with regards to electoral violence coming out of the state. We haven't gotten reports of that. We have only heard of persons going out to cast their ballots, and the governorship candidates of from the states of the various parties have commended the process so far. We'll definitely be keeping tabs with regards to the security situation as we get information out of there. We see that the police is making huge efforts to ensure that the people of Imo State, and not just Imo State, we see that even across the three states where the off-cycle election is happening. We have seen that of Kogi State. We have also seen Bayelsa State. We spoke with our correspondent earlier, Sarah, as well as Uche Okoro, who told us that the process has been peaceful and that the police have been engaging peacefully with the people, because that was also the concern. How peaceful will their engagement be with the people?
Now, if we, I recall when we listened to Frankenbad, DIG,
yeah,
he spoke with cautious optimism. Yeah. He said it is not over until it is
over.
Right. And if you look at that statement, it shows that they are actually proactive. And this sign of being proactive, they are looking at what is happening, and they are prepared for any
and what could happen.
What could happen? But we hope that nothing will happen. We have also seen one of the contestants came out and said Imo State is very, very peaceful. We could also see that it's peaceful, that everything is going. We hope it will end up being peaceful. But because when it comes to election, you wouldn't know how and what could happen. But as it is now, I think it's a good one. We must commend all the stakeholders, even the CSO. We have seen them coming out. You have spoke with TMG among other stakeholders, and they have also came out and said, so far they commend INEC and they commend the security apparatus. So INEC itself, we are still saying well done to them, but we want to see them doing this until the cumulative result will actually come. And you also see that most people are ready to stay with their election and make sure their
votes count. Right, we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us.
Interpretation of our laws by the judicial officer, it will come to a time that the presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season. Probably that's the time that all of you media people and others should be worried. Look at the American system. Everybody knows when the American elections will be conducted. That's standard practice in other countries. And when I say presidential election in Nigeria may be off-season one day, some people may get why, how? It almost happened in 2007. I contested as a running mate to late President Yar'Adua. You know that election, the 7 justices that presided over the case, 3 of them, in their own judgment that the election be annulled, 4 of them sustained the election. And that is why we stayed. If one has crossed over, by now the presidential election in Nigeria will have been off-season election. And it is not the best for a country. And there's easy things to do to make sure that other states, now we have 7 states that are off-season. We need to stop there. And where possible, these 7 states too can be migrated back to fall in line with the other states. And the National Assembly can do that. That is my message for the National Assembly, my message for Nigerians today.
So the visuals you just saw, 2 different visuals. The first of former President Goodluck Jonathan talking about the off-cycle election, hoping that it would return, it will be brought back into the general election, and that he's appealing to perhaps the National Assembly to look into that. And then we also saw visuals of the aerial view of security operatives talking about the police in Imo State and a helicopter, ensuring that there is peace and stability as the electorate observe the off-cycle election. And we had spoken with DIG Frank Mba earlier with regards to that, where he and his men had gone around the state, patrolled the state to ensure that there is peace, there is calm, and that his men are doing the needful with regards to the democratic exercise as they had promised before the election, to ensure also that there is some level of neutrality as a lot of persons had raised concerns with regards to that. We still have our guest, the political economist, Dr. Aliu Ilias, in the studio with us, talking about this matter of security and every other issue. Oh, obviously, they have landed.
Wow.
It means that they have seen that there are no issues across the states, the security situation. There's no electoral violence, so to speak. There's no emergency situation for them to address. It's quite an interesting one coming from Imo State because these were the major concerns leading up to the election. And it was said or reported that Imo is that state that should be looked at as one of the volatile states because of this matter of off-cycle elections.
But even because of the volatility of the environment, I'm sure maybe by the end of the election, we will need to know the number of people that actually came out to vote, because we are looking at voter apathy, because from the challenge that people have been experiencing over time, unknown gunmen, the NLC governor issues, a lot of brutality and whatever. So I pray to not reflect in the number of voters that will turn out, because as human, by the time you see violence, you find ways to take cover and at least reduce the risk of being involved in the issue. But I like to commend the Nigerian police. This is quite an interesting. I can see they are chopping knuckle as it is, because
commending his men for a good job done.
Exactly, and that's a motivation from Frank Kuba, because when you do this to your men, it shows that you really appreciate what they are doing. We also appeal to the citizens of Imo also, because they are a stakeholder in this election too. They also need to cooperate with the police and not cause or bring issues that will bring about violence, especially the political party and the governorship candidates.
Absolutely. There's still time for the electorate to go out to vote. We're looking at the 2:30 for the closure of the whole exercise. And so as it is, they can still go out with this now. This should perhaps give them some level of confidence that all is well, so they can turn out to vote at the end of the day, so that they can ensure that they are part of the process and they are part of those who decide who leads them in the next 4 years. It's critical.
Perhaps people that thought there will be violence, they could be watching this program now, and they are seeing what is happening. They will change their mind to go for to cast their vote, because we must also carry out our civic responsibility. That's how we must begin to educate Nigerians that don't say you want to say you won't vote, because if you don't vote, whoever becomes governor is your governor, so you just have to take part of the process. But the major stakeholder we need to look at are the governorship candidates and political party. Having signed this peace accord, we want it to be reflected in their conduct and in their way of doing things. Perhaps another thing that got to
Well, you could just hold the thought for a bit, because we have our senior correspondent Ayodele Ozugbakun in Kogi State to bring us up to speed with developments from where he is, and perhaps tell us what he has noticed from him monitoring the electoral process. Ayo, what is the situation of things? All right, we'll definitely get back to Ayodele Ozugbakun as soon as we can. But you touched on something very critical.
Right.
The commitment of the candidates, be it governorship or whatever level, because you commit, it's about the people you say you want to serve.
Right.
But then when this commitment is not being gotten, especially where you sign a peace bond,
peace accord,
what does it say? Is it really about the people? Is it really about national interest? Or what? How is it that we are also not even reining in on this political elite when they fall short of their commitment?
Right. You know, as a politician, they are always they have that optimism that they should have this, but like they don't have that, they turn it to something else. And that's why that peace accord should go even beyond sign of it. It should also be a document to hold against such persons, because you know, in that peace accord, even utterances, you know, our language, the way we present things also should be cautioned, because you know, you may not directly be involved in the violence itself, but your words can make your followers to commit such atrocity against the electoral process. So I think this is where we need to start bringing them to account, that whenever you do, perhaps there should be a screening, that if this process, maybe it will come earlier, maybe the accord, peace accord should come in phases. So by the time we do the first one, a month to election, they will see how you have been able to, you know, by the time they look at your utterance, they can even call you to caution that it's as if you are going outside what it agreed, then they sign the next. So we cannot say they should stop signing, because it has also have its own optics positively to the general. Because when you sign peace accord, Nigerians also have that confidence that you will be peaceful throughout the election, and that's where our security agency also need to come into play, because most violence have been committed by the followers of these candidates, and that's where they need to caution them very well not to commit such offense. I think that's where we need to do. And also political parties also need to also caution their candidates.
Absolutely. Because I was going to say that political parties have a major role to play.
Major role to play, because right from primary, you should just caution them, because everything starts from primary, right? If somebody is violent in primary, it simply means it is going to escalate to when it comes. So they should start from there, cautioning their people. And also, I would also appeal to Nigeria and the electorate, see these people that is so violent. Why are you queuing behind such a person? We should also look at that, because it affects the electoral process itself.
But there are those who would say that this matter of the signing of a peace accord is not bound by law.
Right.
And so you cannot necessarily hold anyone to account where there is no legal backing to the document.
You don't, sometimes it's not necessary that it should be maybe what you signed that with commitment, but it's a signal. Perhaps we can use that to really look at what is actually happening. You know, Nigerians can also even hold this candidate accountable. All right,
so let's go to crossover to Ayodele Ozugbakun now, who is in Kogi State, to bring us up to speed with developments with regards to the off-cycle election, the polling units you've monitored. What have you observed? Earlier we spoke with Ademola, who told us there were incidents of vote buying. What have you seen so far?
The 94% PVC collection rate that was recorded in the entire state, Lokoja, that's the Western Senatorial District of this particular state, has been very, very quiet, and the turnout has not been impressive at all. Not been impressive. This particular polling unit is where we call Lokoja local government. The polling unit has, they have 750 actually registered voters here, and so far, according to the breakdown in the PVC, it's just 125 that have been accredited for the whole day, and it's just less than an hour to the end of that exercise. that this particular polling unit has a potential of 750 registered voters, but so far just 125 have turned up. Adjoining polling units that have recorded fewer numbers and lower numbers, and in spite of the very, very tight security around Lokoja, the vicinity in and out of the states, and its major roads are, cordoned off, and you can see the presence of heavy military presence around Lokoja town, and they've not allowed vehicular movement at all. But what we've seen here is different from the information we've been getting from other parts of the states like Ogori Bagogo, where the Independent National Electoral Commission has just acknowledged the fact that there's a kind of report of pre-filled result formed, and they said they are looking into it. That's kind of caused a kind of rancor in Kogi Central Senatorial District, Ogori Magogo local government, and for the Eastern Senatorial District, the turnout I gather that has been massive. For the Western Senatorial District, it has been fair, and the Central Senatorial District, it has also been impressive, but it's like almost a no-show in Lokoja. That's the state capital. A lot of reasons might be responsible for this. I was told that some of the people that registered to vote in Lokoja, most of them, they moved to their villages, town, just to stay there for a day like this, and they're not interested in the activities. They're thinking of what happened in the last election, and they can't guarantee the safety of life and property. But what we've seen today on ground is that we've seen heavy security presence in Lokoja, and we've not heard of any incident around Lokoja. But we are waiting to get from other parts of the states so that we know actually if we can describe this as a free and fair exercise. But it's less than 1 hour to the entire thing, but there's been kind of voter apathy in Lokoja, the state's capital, Veronica.
One could describe the mood where you are as silence of the graveyard, because you can barely see any electorate activity there, and we can see electoral officers seated and waiting for the electorate to come and cast their ballot. I see you're trying to speak.
Bored,
yeah.
Just waiting for. They seem to be bored, just waiting for 2:30 so that they can get the whole thing over with. In an ideal situation, in the situation whereby people come here, you see that by now you see party agents all around. You will see even people that have exercised their franchise. They'll be hanging around a time like this, waiting for 2:30 so that they will start the sorting and the counting of votes. But my cameraman can pan around here, and you can see that this place is almost empty, and most polling units in Lokoja has been like that. And it's at the end of the day, we'll be able to aggregate the level of participation in this exercise. But the apathy is what I've seen from most of the polling units I've visited today. And you can see the electoral officers, they're just having a kind of nice time. And the weather is so harsh here, and they're just praying that it's 2:30. So immediately it's 2:30, they start sorting and start counting per se. So
right.
They are going to leave the polling unit to go to the Ward Collation Center. From the Ward Collation Center, they'll go to the local government. From the local government, they'll now go to the State Collation Center, where everything is going to be brought from the 21 local government and 3,204 polling units together, and it's going to be sorted. So from what we've seen so far here, it has been peaceful. I can report that it has been peaceful. Contrary to what we had 4 years ago, right. By now we reported cases of ballot box snatching and violence here and there in the same Lokoja, but Lokoja is peaceful today.
Indeed. But there are those who are seated there waiting. Are those party agents? Who are they? Did they perform their franchise? What are they doing there?
Yes, we have some party agents hanging on, and they're just waiting. And some people, I reliably gathered now that we have to come back when it's exactly 2:30. That is when they will witness the sorting and counting of votes. So some party agents, especially the top political parties that they feel that they have a big stake in this part of the state, that look, they are going to wait and they are going to witness the sorting and counting of votes here in this particular polling unit. But it has been very, very dry here, and the electoral officers are still just waiting. But it has been peaceful so far, Veronica.
I am wondering if you spoke with any of the party agents that are waiting with regards to the situation on the ground. What's their perhaps interpretation, or how do they feel about the fact that a number of electorates did not turn out to vote?
They told me that people just are not just interested because of the rhetorics ahead of this election, because of the language of politicians before this particular election, that most people are just staying at home, that they are just waiting to get this exercise over with today, and they will have the new governor, but they don't want to participate. So it's not, it will be safe to say that out of 94% turnover for those that collected the PVC, that most of them just collected it and decided to stay at home, especially in the Western Senatorial District, which is Lokoja.
I will definitely get back to you for more updates coming out of Lokoja. It's quite concerning, the pictures we are getting out of the senatorial district where Ayo is, where he said out of 750 registered voters, only 125 turned out to vote. This is more than voter apathy,
right?
One would say.
This is quite unexpected,
disturbing.
Quite disturbing, and it falls short of expectation that a state capital, a polling unit there that have 700 can only have 100 people or above participating, and this speaks to the politics of ethnicity that is happening in that state. Perhaps, like he rightly said, and I said, most of them has moved down to their villages. So now, if you look at that, the campaign and what have you, you see that between the Okuns, the Kaba axis, the Ibira axis, and the Gala axis, everybody have their candidates, and everybody wants to queue behind their irrespective of political party, because you expect that some people are in one political party, even at all, they are not they are not supposed to, support. Before politically, when you are a particular party, no matter what, you want to still queue behind that person. But what is happening in Kogi now, it's a very dangerous one, we must say that, because people do not even have
division
confidence
between ethnic lines.
People does not even have confidence in the federal capital, which is expected to be, the state capital is expected to be more secure compared to other villages. I think this speaks to the level of democracy, and we must move beyond this. Perhaps, like he rightly said, he said the rhetorics and the language of the political the titans in the politics itself, the language they are using is actually bringing that fear, that apprehension that people think they may not be safe where they are not in their village, and that's not a good one going forward for Kogi State and for Nigeria.
Absolutely, because we saw accusations, counter-accusations from major contenders with regards to the election in Kogi State.
Violence.
There was violence. There were so many issues leading up to the election, and the matter of ethnicity also coming to play, and everybody seeming to want to queue behind their own as it is. And then there's also the issue of the ghost of 2019. We saw what happened in 2019, and so a lot of persons have been concerned.
Right.
And then we got to see that the level of deployment of the police into the state, over 40,000 policemen, aside other security agencies, sister agencies, were deployed into Kogi State to also address these issues. But before we come to this matter, let's quickly go to Imo State, where we have a correspondent, Ademola, maybe to talk to us about the aerial view or surveillance of security personnel to ensure that perhaps there was safety, and also to see the performance of the police force with regards to entrenching our democratic principles during this exercise. You were part of that trip on the air. Talk to us what your experience was like being in the helicopter monitoring the security situation.
An interesting experience, Veronica, I must tell you. It was such a beautiful view of different parts of Imo State. Of course, we had, on the aircraft, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Frank Mba, who took an on-the-spot assessment, area surveillance of different parts of Imo State, which, of course, he told us is part of efforts made by the security agencies to ensure safety of the electorate and, of course, electoral materials. He also went on to say that they are going to stick to their promises to bring to book or punish anyone, want to foment trouble at the various polling units. Earlier, of course, he led a team of security personnel to different polling units across the state just to see or to ensure that voters had not been intimidated, apart from the fact that there's been a low voter turnout in some parts of the state. He is again reassuring the electorate, for those who are still scared or of coming out of their houses to exercise their franchise, is saying that the environment is safe and they are free to come out and exercise their franchise. It was such a beautiful view, moving around, different parts of the state, seeing, such a view of the different polling units across the state, Veronica.
Now, there are areas that have been termed flashpoints in the states. Leading up to the elections, there were also concerns about these areas that are notorious for electoral violence. I'm wondering if these were the areas, specific areas that you took a tour of with the police force, or we went round the state.
Okay. Security officials, of course, have been positioned, striking police force have been positioned in strategic places, talking about local government areas outside the state. I'm talking about border areas that, of course, they have been referred to as flashpoints. Those are areas where electoral violence was recorded during the last election. And, of course, security agencies in the state have taken their time to study these areas. And from my chat with the Deputy Inspector General of Police, he went on to say that security officials have been positioned in these places to ensure that, of course, there is no breakdown of law and order in those places. So from what he has said so far, the process has been smooth. We've not had cases of persons engaging in electoral violence and all of that. And then we still wait to see what will happen, even as the process continues. But so far, the process, according to him, has been adjudged as transparent and smooth for places that we have visited. We do hope that those border areas, I'm talking about places like Olu, Osu, and all of that, are also well policed, as he has said. Veronica.
Indeed, we hope that the peace that has been recorded thus far will be sustained till the end of the exercise. But let's talk about the engagement of the police with the electorate. What did you see? How were also the electorate cooperating with the police force?
All right, earlier today when we set out, of course, we saw people coming out of their houses, moving to, the various polling units. Some of them, of course, who were not accredited, who have no business being out, were sent back, while those who are eligible, voters were allowed to go to the various polling units. You recall that the security agencies, the Deputy Inspector General of Police had said that over 25,000, police personnel have been, deployed to the 27 local government areas in the state. Of course, 33 unit police force are on the ground. According to him, it's a huge security presence, but of course, he has said that that is not done to intimidate the electorate, but of course to assure them of their safety. So far, the electorate have been going about, to different polling units to exercise their franchise. But for the voter apathy that we have recorded so far, we do hope that more people will have the courage to come out, because even with the on-the-spot assessment that the DIG just had, he had tried to assure
assure voters that they can come out and exercise their franchise. They have nothing to worry about. We do hope that they still come out to exercise their franchise before the exercise, is over. Veronica.
Indeed, that was the conversation we were having in the studio when we saw the aerial view of the surveillance move by the police, that perhaps this will repose some confidence in the minds of the people towards the police force, believing that they are safe and secured by the police, the presence of the police. But then, Bimbo, being at the top there, it looked like you were scared, so to speak, when we saw the pictures of you with the DIG and the other persons in the helicopter. Were you afraid?
There, and of course, you should know that there will be a strong breeze blowing into the aircraft. I was a bit scared, but of course, as we moved on, I was able to, like I told.
All right, it's still the visuals of the aerial view, the aerial surveillance of the police force in Imo State. That's Bimbo there, who was just speaking with me, her eyes looking pretty scared. But of course, they landed safely after taking a tour across the state to ensure that there was some level of peace and tranquility in the state, and ensure that the people, the electorate, are safe as they turn out to cast their ballot. Well, interesting conversation there with a correspondent, and it was good, like she also mentioned. All right, quickly, Bimbo, you were telling me that being up there, you were pretty scared, especially with the air that blew. So go ahead and talk to me.
Slightly scared, Veronica, slightly scared.
Right.
I was a bit scared actually, but of course I was able to gain my confidence back, and of course I enjoyed. It was such a nice experience, so I can't say I'm scared. I was scared initially, but of course I was able to gain my confidence back, Veronica. Also, one interesting thing that I would like to add was we had the Deputy Inspector General of Police at a meeting with the CSOs and of course some election observers yesterday, where he ordered police officers attached to very important personalities, political and public officers, to stay off, because we've had cases in past elections where we have the security personnel attached to these VIPs go to escort their bosses to the polling unit, thereby disrupting the electoral process. Of course, it said yesterday that such should not happen, and any security personnel found doing that will be dealt with decisively. He had also gone ahead to assure that they are out to silence the guns of criminals and not out to intimidate, of course, the innocent electorate, Veronica. So we see how things pan out as the process continues, Veronica.
All right, it seems you're ready to go back into the craft again with the helmet on your head, but ensure that just stay safe, have a good one, and then we'll definitely get back to you for more updates as events unfold in Imo State. So much efforts being put in by the police with what we are getting there from our correspondent. But before we went to her, you were talking about the attitude of the political elite.
Right. I think that speaks to the challenge of party politics. Right. Because you see that a fallout of party politics results to ethnic line of what is happening. So that simply means that we need our politicians, the political party need to do more to have democratic way of electing their representation, who will represent them, their flag bearer and whatever. Because a fallout of it could also bring such ethnic line division and whatever. And for Kogi, I think we need to do more to tame such. If not, it will keep reducing people's confidence on our electoral system. And like you rightly said, the place is well policed that people are even scared at a level because we cannot say that it's not people are not around to have voted if we have 100 people coming out compared to the 700 people that are actually supposed to register in that polling unit. It's how many percentage is that? That's quite small. So I think we need to look at that very, very well.
Now, are we looking at the attendant implications of things like this? Because it seems we are not looking at the bigger picture. We say we are evolving, yet we are still having some of these challenges that we have refused to critically address, talking about the political elites, their commitment to ensuring that they stick by the rules and also ensure that our democratic principles are entrenched and upheld towards having a robust exercise and having a democracy that we have always wished for.
Right. If you look at the number of voters that are registered in Kogi, it's about 1.8 million, or collected their PVCs about 1.8 million or thereabout. So it will be interesting if we have more than 1 million that are going to cast their and what's the negative impact of this? We have spent a lot of amounts, to really actually go ahead to taxpayers' money to print all this electoral material, election material and whatever. And by now we have a polling that only 100 people show up. That's not a good one. And like I said, it is party politics that result into this.
Now let's look at perhaps how we need to begin to change this kind of mindset, how we can begin to ensure that we repose, or the electorate repose confidence on the system. We have seen in some other parts, some persons are saying, we want to see the end of this process.
Right, which is correct.
It is good.
Right.
But does that also reflect confidence in the process? Because we saw the fallout of the general election.
If you talk about repose the confidence, in most elections, after you finish the INEC process, sometimes we still end up focusing on the court issue.
That is what brought us here.
That's the issue. Because by the time election, there is the INEC declare winner, so people will still go out and contest that. That's another level.
But that's part of the process, too.
No, it's not bad, but it shows that the process had issues. If there is not much issue, sometimes we have seen President Jonathan after election, he said, no, I'm not,
Isn't that about the individual and not the process?
I think it should go beyond individual now to process and political party. Sometimes political party will see the situation of things and say, this is our stand, not your individual interest. Because if individual interest is coming up, because it's wealthy, because it's elite, because he sponsored the party or what have you, we will continue to see such problems. So for Kogi issue, it's more of stakeholder issue because it has to do with the electorate, it has to do with the political party, it has to do with even INEC itself. So these are the people that need to come together and give us final solution. And even the Nigerian police too. Like I said, sometimes when election is being over-secured, sometimes it also discourages people. But we wouldn't blame people. The last election, someone was burnt.
That's in 2019.
So people will be looking at that area that I don't want to, involve. I don't want to lose my life. Look at the consequence. So consequence itself is what people are actually looking at. How have you, that last person, have you been able to bring people
to book
that commit such offense to book? Who are they? Why do they do that? Where are they now? Are they in prison? Have they been tried? These are the things that we need. So if you now think as individual, that if I embark on this and anything happens, there may not be justice for me. So sometimes people don't want to embark. And that's the result of what we see, that only 100 people are out compared to 700 that actually register for that polling unit. It's quite appalling.
It's appalling indeed. But then again, let's backtrack a bit with regards to this matter of addressing our democratic processes, electoral violence, and all. The matter of ideology. We saw that political parties before now used to have an ideology, they stuck with it.
Right.
And they ensured that they saw through to it. And that has even kept some political parties up until now. But the desperation that we are seeing with regards to our political processes, there are those who have said that perhaps we need to begin to make political offices
less attractive.
Less attractive.
Right.
Is that part of the solution to it, or what more can be done to address, because it seems we have a peculiar situation in this part of the world.
You see, peculiar situation required peculiar solution. Well, my school of thought, for me, I think we need proportional representation in our politics. The issue of winner takes all is bringing more problem. And most people, because we are Nigerians, we always want to copy what someone has done. So what has not been practiced somewhere else, we will say we won't do it. But we must look at our case and look at a peculiar solution that could solve the problem. Now let's look at proportional representation. Someone takes 70% of the, maybe the winner takes 70%, another person takes 20%, another person takes 10%. If we have this proportional representation, I think it will less the issue that the more you strive, the more you bring development, the more you start to have position, the more you start to have representation. So political parties will start having good ideology that will, that will resonate with people. Perhaps people will now be committed. So for me, I'm school of thought of proportional representation, because it is winner takes all. And you remember that even after
when you
the
say
election,
winner takes all, I need you to perhaps speak, expatiate your points for people to understand.
Right.
Winner takes all, proportional representation. How do you mean in specific terms?
Now, if you look at a state now, in that state, a particular political party emerged the winner. Remember that all the local government, everything, they control the SEC and everything, they take everything. But whereby that this person who comes second also have in that, also have representation to that level in the governance itself, it will reduce that. What I'm saying is that if you look at our system now, once someone becomes president, he appoints everything from his political party, unless from his goodwill, or they call it a unity government. It is in that case that they will bring some people to be part of the, but if people that comes second.
So there's no federal character. That's what you're talking about.
We wouldn't say, but it's just a system on its own that it can be adopted. So if people that comes as second also have, maybe we're having 15 ministers and they are bringing 15 ministers. You see what I'm trying to say? It looks like they are the second, who emerge second in that context. So proportional representation can also reduce these challenges. Perhaps it will reflect that these people that are performing over time, they will do something else. But now winner takes all, and winner takes. Just look at our system. It's winner takes all system, because you can't say this present government should bring people. They are from their own.
But this current administration said it's a government of national competence, not government of national unity, and so went across the board to headhunt persons.
Okay, let's now look at it now. It's a good
from
one.
Across
in fact, this one are actually doing that, but it's from his will. It's from that political party and the president.
So it still falls back to the individual.
Exactly. So
and not necessarily the party.
No, it's a process itself. If we were to use proportional representation, it should be constitutional. It's not what one person can just decide. We'll decide that this is what we want to be using, and that's what we'll adopt. But this one is from his own, because of this present government actually want competency and want performance. That's why he's going out to bring people that are not from his political. And he's not the first one to actually do it. We could see it from our First Republic. During the First Republic, first president, the First Republic, actually carries out that, brings people from different political party, different background, and people that have performed over time, bring them to his government, and they actually perform well. And that's it. So I think it's boiled down now to who is leading and his decision.
Interesting. All right, we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. Stay with us.